Hello and welcome to Chess Book Reviews 118. Before we start, don't forget this is a new channel, even though it doesn't look like one. So please like and subscribe down below. It's very important. I haven't got the feedback that I wanted. We all need encouragement, don't we, in what we do. Now, I have two books to show you, quite detailed texts to say the least. And they're both published by Macfarlane and Company of the USA. Now, the first of them is called James Mason in America, and has the subtitle The Early Chess Career, 1867 to 1878. It's by a gentleman whose name is, I cannot pronounce properly, Just van Winsen, maybe. He will forgive me if I make a good job of reviewing his book, even though I don't make a good job of speaking his name. This is an absolutely lovely book. They both are. Now, this was published in 2011. It's quite likely that you could get it from a dealer or a library or a specialist seller in hardback. And it's also, I haven't checked, but quite likely it's gone into paperback. But however you decide to get it, I hope very much that you take an interest in chess history. It says few people have historically been more prominent chess players and esteemed chess writers. James Mason had in his lifetime the reputation of being both. Now, there is one thing, flippancy aside, which I must add, and that is James Mason was not the actor James Mason. This is a completely different James Mason. It says nowadays Mason is nearly forgotten. Thanks to this book, all of that, we hope, will change. Apparently, he came back to England in 1878 and lived here until 1905. And so this book, please excuse me, I dusted both the books before I came on air, and I think I inhaled half of the dust all over them. Mr. Mason's style of notation especially recommends itself. I think I'll go and get a drink. I don't know how to help, so you're going to have to hang on. Don't go away. I apologise for that adjournment, but there wasn't a lot of choice. Let's have a little drink. Next time, perhaps, I'll be a bit more organised. Right. There you go. Now, I'll make up for this. I'm getting water all over the page. Very learned book, thanking many libraries, scholars, other books. All quotations in this book are duplications of the original published versions within reasonable typographical limits. That's good, isn't it? Because you're probably sitting there worrying if they're within reasonable typographical limits, and then you suddenly somebody says, yeah, they are actually. Few. That's all right then, isn't it? Now, there are 6 indexes. The 7 games have been translated from German and French. Who was James Mason? He was most likely given that name at the age of 11 when he and his family arrived in America. Not much is known of Mason's youth. He was born in Kilkenny, in the southeast of Ireland, on 19th of November, 1849. His real name remains a secret. I don't think he means a secret. I think what he means is his real name remains unknown. Well, that doesn't make it a secret. If you wish to secrete something, it means you're hiding it. This isn't hidden, it is lost. Anyway. Here is a map of how to get to the Brooklyn Chess Club in the 19th century. So if you're in a time machine and you want to get back there, it's called establishing himself in business. And here is the Knickerbocker Club. One of the oldest chess places. With a little bit more water, but at least I'm not in any discomfort because I was before. Cheers, everybody. There we are. Hope that makes me feel a little better. Haven't had a very good day. Mason started to play chess in the post-Morphy period. In other words, I suppose coming up for the Steinitz era. Well-known Paul Morphy became American champion when he won the first American Chess Congress, which was held in New York in 1857. After his victory in the metropolis, he traveled to Europe and defeated many European players of note, including Anderson, Harrowitz, and Lowenthal. He returned to the United States in 1859 and idolized and worshipped as an American hero, but gave up serious chess. Blimey. Oh, here's a wonderful picture. The Brooklyn Mercantile Library. And the chess club came to this building, not all of the building, in 1872. I'm going to show you it. There it is. That's beauty, isn't it? There we are. That's the Mercantile Library. Talking about various arrangements and early games he played in the US of A. Truth of the matter is that some of this information is very hard to digest if you haven't heard of all the players. Well, some of them you will have done, I like to think. Others, perhaps, again, you'll enjoy being introduced to them. Mr. Whisker here. There he is. I think he came from up north. North in England, I mean, not in America. There's a very, very great deal of information here, which is new to me. So I'm looking at it wide-eyed. Games he played in the Cafe International. And a little tournament with Delmar, Bird, as in Henry Bird, I assume, yes. And it gives games in the second section, played obviously when he was in America. And some results. Here's the Clipper tournament of 1876. which he won, with Delmar second and Bird third. Let me show you. There we are. As you can see, there's some gaps, probably because there isn't enough money for supplemental prizes all the way down. And here we have from page 169 in algebraic notation the games. And the first, wouldn't you know it, is a Philidor defense. The sort enjoyed by Jonathan Mestel in his time, not now. John played it in the World Junior. He prepared it specially. And here's Mason's games against Mackenzie and Delmar, mentioned before. And a lot of these will be strong emphasis on attacking play, I'm sure. The King's Bishop's Gambit. So after 3 bishop c4, favoured by Bobby Fish, d5 immediately. And these are games played about 150 years ago. So there we are. If you look at the subtitle of the book, normally these books tell you how many games there are. Well, they didn't, but never mind. 370 odd pages. The bibliography stretches to 3 pages alone. It's a lot of books. Letters at the back. Asking for money, begging for air. What can we do without air? What indeed can we do without money? Results in New York and Brooklyn. Some problems he's composed. Friendly games played at odds. Yes. Well, I don't know how many games are here, but it's probably about 200, I'd guess. I could be wrong, but I think probably. Games in the 2 nights, and obviously the Evans Gambit, given the age of the games, always craps up, doesn't it, the Evans? Yes. Well, that's something I'd never seen before. e4, e5, 2, d4, f5 immediately. 3, e takes f, and now e4. And white played queen, h5 check. And I can't help thinking, yes, it says the finish is unique and beautiful, and the king gets driven all the way to a1. Rather like that handicap blitz game between George Thomas and Edward Lasker. So there you are. In fact, I might give that game in my magazine I'm writing. Put a little bookmark in, so as I can remind myself. So look out for that in the issue of the Chess Parrot number 30. Where's it gone? There it is. Okay. It's a friendly game, played in the Café International in 1877 against NN, a very well-known player. Not known. So that's that book. There it is, once again. Now the second book I've got for you is the same publisher, but this time 2 authors, Mr. John Hilbert and Peter P. Larday. I've had correspondence with John Hilbert, and he wrote for BCM when I was editor for a short while. And very, very good his stuff was too. This book was written, or published rather, in 2008, so it's been around the block 15 years ago. Once again, I can only repeat, I strongly recommend you try and get a hardback copy, but if you can't, few men owe as much to chess, or gave as much to chess, as Albert Berand, I can't pronounce it, sorry, Hodges. I do apologize. He was born in Tennessee when the American Civil War was in its infancy. Hodges began his life as the son of a Nashville druggist, in other words, chemist. His earliest years were lived in obscurity of a childhood scarred by wounded sectional pride. I don't know what that means. Please forgive me. By the end of his life, near the conclusion of World War II, Hodges, then an octogenarian, would reflect on his achievements both on and off the board, moulded by his fiery passion and longest lasting love, chess. The authors have endeavoured to cast light on material long forgotten, you're telling me they have, and in particular to highlight Hodges' early chess career before the 20th century. It was during those years he played his best, won his many titles, and established himself as a fixture in New York national and international chess. They're calling him the Tennessee Morphy. We ought to be likened, even in passing, even in jest, to Morphy. It doesn't get any better than that. Say boy. Picture of Max Judd. Masses and masses of footnotes. These books are just breathtaking. Interest in telegraph play in Nashville led to the following on the 22nd of April for the formation of the Nashville Chess, Checkers and Whist Club. I don't imagine there's too many drafts clubs in England at all now. And if there were, I mean, I think even in a chess club, if you got out a set of draftsmen and started having a game, I think somebody might come up and say, I'm sorry, I don't want you to do that. I remember when I was taking interest in Go, one of the very strongest players in the club, presumably an officer of the club probably, and I said, he said, do you want to come over to my house and we can play some Go? And I did want to play, and I said, well, we can play at the chess club. Oh, no, I don't think we can, he said. And there would be objections. I think if we'd applied in advance, there wouldn't have been, but that's not quite the same thing. In any case, when it came to it, he might not have wanted to have played. On that particular evening, I mean. Although no chess by Hodges are known between 1889 and the middle of 1890, period clearly was important in his life. Having moved to St. Louis from Nashville, very little is known about his early work life. This is games against Ajib, which I think was the box of tricks, wasn't it? Ajib moved to the Crystal Palace, where a room was fitted up for its first appearance. Yes. Found a home, lively business for 7 years, Visitors including exotic dignitaries such as the Shah of Persia, the Empress of Russia, the Grand Duke Constantine, the Sultan of Zanzibar, and the Nawab of Bengal. Well, how about that? They should do this now. Hide some little man inside a chess playing machine. Move the pieces around, couldn't it? Got a lot of young, strong players. Perhaps one or more of them would like to hide inside and not get claustrophobia. Oh, this is an interesting thing. Something, a system I've been looking at recently. Owen's defense. 1b6. Here's a game against Whips Showalter. Jackson Whips Showalter. Well, how can I summarize a book with several hundred pages? I don't know how I can. It's brilliant. Just going through to see what else I'm missing. A little picture of Blackburn. A little pen and ink sketch, perhaps. Doesn't look like Blackburn as far as I'm concerned, but you made it, you know, differently, or you made it better than I do. There's the Black Death himself. This is part of the, in my opinion, overrated cable matches. And here's a picture of Edward Ewart Napier, who was the very first British champion. The very last British champion was Michael Adams, who won last year. Lots and lots of biography. Pictures of Schlechter, Teichmann, and the one and only Mikhail Ivanovich Chigorin. It has to be said then as now, if you want to get good at chess, you've got to be prepared to travel. I think that's the best piece of advice I would give any trainee or putative or future grandmaster. Get your skates on. A lot of these people, if you stay in one place and just play in England, you might get a few, put together a living, or you might have students and do coaching. If you want to play, you're going to have to travel. It's a picture of Hodges himself. There he is. Looking as I am now, a bit tubby. And at the back, it's fairly small print, but it is readable and beautifully printed in algebraic notation. Games. They use rubber indexes. Most of these played in the 19th century. And therefore E4, E5 looms large. They're not exclusively, I'm sure, but fairly large. There's a Scotch. I think it's Blackmar, as in Black Medina. And here we are in very, very good company. This was played by Steinitz, blindfold. E4, E5, knight C3. You want to do that. Bishop c5, f4, inviting a sort of king's gambit. And Hodges took on g1. Mr. Hodges plays a bizarre opening, probably on the assumption that he will confuse the black blindfold player, but he shares the common error which prevails in that respect, even amongst some strong players who are inexperienced in such performances. For the more unusual the opening is, the more it makes a distinct impression on the performer's memory and imagination at once. So you take that in, okay? This game was played in 1891. Some lovely stuff here. Let me give you an insight into the format. There you are. As you can see, there's a small smattering of diagrams, which I always like, a discussion of openings, and variety of opponents. I imagine this is pretty well all the Hodges games he could find. I don't think it's not selected games, it's complete games. Oh, well, look, here he is playing against Lasker. It says 20 moves in 60 minutes, so an hour. And Hodges was the New York State champion. And some rather interesting systems. E4, E5, 2 knight C3, knight C6, G3. Yeah, I took an interest in this myself. It's certainly quieter and provocative because black often lashes out with H5. There's a game between Bill Hartston and Mariotti from the Olympiad, and Bill lost. He was good on openings. My God, he was good on openings. But Mariotti beat him using the early H5 against his, what I would call Mises Smyslov, Vienna. Whatever you call it. It's a good system, but you do have to have prepared it. You know, have a look through your books. Don't go in cold. Not unless you want to get a shock. Well, I'm skimming through this somewhat wordlessly. In this game between Shawalter and Hodges, the Kentuckian introduces a novelty in the Ruy Lopez. Hodges relies upon the Steinitz defense 3d6. White did not exchange the bishop for the knight, and after developing his pieces, he castles on the queen side. That's quite unusual. Whereupon Shawalter marched on with his h-pawn, having driven the king with a check to h8. Okay, fair enough. This is the match that they played. Steinitz, by that time, was an old man. I think travelling to the US was probably quite an undertaking for him. Sorry, it's not Steinitz, it's Shawalter. I'm sorry, I thought it said Steinitz. Games played at the turn of the century. Game from the cable match of 1902. Frank J. Lee. I don't know Frank J. Lee, I don't think. It's not a name I know. It's Hodges playing at the highest level, playing against Janowski. And he lost. No disgrace there against Janowski. Yep, Janowski. That is not to be confused with the Canadian. Well, what do you know? Here is the game against Mises, or Mises, perhaps. Yes, Mises, I'm told you called it. One against Capablanca from 1911. Even then, Capablanca was yet to become world champion. He was formidable, wasn't he? Edward Tennell Wurzel. I love the opening. D4, D5, E3, E6, Bishop D3, Bishop D6, in other words, symmetry. Knight F3, Knight C6, Knight F6, still symmetrical. 5, this will kill you. Knight E5, and then he replies, Knight E4. 6 F4 castles, 7 castles, and then, are you ready for this? F5. There's a limit to how long this can go on for. And the game ended up as a draw. Well, I hope they enjoyed it. I think we're having a bit of fun, is there? Here's a game against Jacob Bernstein. And it's the Rice tournament. I think it was Mr. Rice, wasn't it, that put money as a sponsor into research into a line which he wished to give his name to. But by contrast, it wasn't that good a line. Well, the games are building into approaching 400 here. And here are some problems at the back. And my only problem is I've come to the end. I'd like to thank you very much. This is a McFarlane book. There it is. Once I'll do it up the right way. It's a lovely book, really brilliant. This has been Chess Book Reviews 118. Please like and subscribe downstairs. Thank you. Goodbye.